I come to this studio, and I thought to myself, we're going to screw this up somehow.
Of course we are.
Yeah, because I'm going to either break something or Brian's going to break something and blame it on me. But I can't believe that we're actually in this room doing this. But anyway, you know, I'm afraid to touch anything, so I don't know what to do with my hands right now.
You're like Ricky Bobby.
Right. In my own house, I was good, but like right now, I kind of want to keep them under the table, but then people may assume other things.
I would.
Like I got my hand on Brian's knee or something. Don't get awkward.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy at all.
Shy.
But it's like life, right? You know, we break shit, whether it's equipment, relationships, you know, whatever.
You said we break shit, and then you said relationships. So that would insinuate that we purposefully sabotage shit?
No, just like we don't. I mean, we don't purposely.
I do. I'm guilty of it. I am honestly guilty of it. Seriously, I'm not lying. Like I caught myself like sabotaging and just destroying relationships.
But when you break like a socket or a wrench, you don't mean to break it. You're using it, and
Now you're saying you value tools more than people. No, I get it. It's an analogy. I'm messing with.
you know, you're using it, and then bam, you're like, crap. I knew I shouldn't have bought that at that particular place.
So should we start and say, welcome to the circle? Prior to the circle, John, why don't you tell us how did we start? How did we get here? And then kind of go from there.
Wow. I'm going to try to tell the Reader's Digest version because I don't want to make this whole thing about that story. But so in a nutshell, me and my brother were going through like the ending of relationships at the same time. And I was staying at my mom's house, right? And then next thing I know, I see this duffel bag in the room. My brother is now at my mom's house. So he's on the couch, and we're like fighting over who gets the extra bed in the spare room. And next thing I know, my mom comes home, and she's like, I got you guys an apartment. There's no way I'm having you two assholes here. That's her words. So we felt so loved, right? But she did give us keys, and there was an apartment waiting for us, literally. And so me and my brother moved in, and we found ourselves like going through this, relationships ending. And we both had like difficult times like we do, but we would switch off like who was having a good day and a bad day. So In a nutshell, we kept each other out of jail. Let's put it that way. And I was still in law enforcement, so that was a big accomplishment on his part, right? But so during that time, like him and I, we talked later. We were always looking for how do regular guys like us deal with this stuff. There was no way I was going to go to a psychiatrist or ask for help because, you know, in law enforcement, it was a stigma. If you go to a psychiatrist or a shrink, number one, you don't trust them because the first thing they do is tell you, by the way, if you say this, this, and that, we have to tell the department. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. There's a circle of trust gone. So him and I, without even knowing it, we were going online and looking for how do guys who don't want to ask for help ask for help. We couldn't find anything. So after things we went through hell, let's put it that way. And then I remember things got turned around for me. I remember coming home from a trip. I don't remember where I was, but it was my breakdown day. I go to my room, right, and I'm hyperventilating. I get down, and next thing I know, I'm on my knees in my room, and I'm bawling like a baby. And that's when I remember looking up literally at the ceiling and saying, God, if you're there now, I need you. Because I can't do this. I can't do it anymore. And I felt this. And first thing I think is, I'm embarrassed, man. I thought it was my brother, you know? So I turn around real quick, and I'm looking for him, and I don't see him. So I'm like, oh, maybe he left the room because, you know, he knows that I'm embarrassed or whatever. So I get up, and I start looking around the house. I'm looking under beds, closets. I even go outside in the front. He's not there. Truck's not there. As I walk back in the house, this is the part that got me the most. I walked back in, and I was like, why do I feel better? Like, I don't feel bothered by anything. All I knew is right then and there it was going to be okay. And I remember telling myself, and I don't even know if I told myself or it was a message from God or what, but stop feeding your brain the things that are not going to benefit you. Stop putting energy into things that are not going to benefit you. Stop worrying about people who are not concerned about you. And I remember just kind of sticking to that. And next thing I know, everything turned around for me. Like I got offered like this awesome job. Everything was just going great. And I wasn't emotionally distressed anymore. So I ended up telling my brother about it. And him and I are like, we don't push our belief on anybody, but we are believers. So we started talking about that. So we're doing good. A year goes by. And I felt like I need to do more. So guys like us, what I realized is once you have that calling to serve, I was in law enforcement just like you. We all worked together. That calling to serve it's a calling. It's that. It wasn't just like I just went and applied. I was meant to serve, right? I just had that pull to serve still, and I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, how do I do this? I don't know what to do. And I literally remember praying and talking to my brother. We were those guys looking for help, and we had nobody in the circle. Now picture this. This is how I came up with the Circle Guardians later. I felt like I was in a fight of my life, and I knew I was never going to win. But at least you want to look back and see the guys in your corner. Look back, there's nobody there. At least the people you thought would be. I'm like, man, that feeling sucked. So I told my brother, what if we decide to be the corner for anybody who went what we went through? Doesn't matter who they are. We're going to be in their corner. We're going to be in their circle. But how we do this to get people to trust us, I go, we got to get in front of a camera and talk about it. He goes, hell no, I'm not doing that. I really don't, which is why I think we have to.
You have to get vulnerable. Very vulnerable. Yeah.
And that's the only way to tell yourself the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Is vulnerable. And I realized that. I thought that telling myself the truth was maybe just saying it out loud to myself. No. You have to tell other people that you're uncomfortable with. And finally, I just said, I don't care. I'm going to tell everybody. And the response was not what I expected. I expected to be ridiculed, and instead people kept calling. So that's how it started. And we started as Brother's Keeper, and now it's evolved to the Circle of Guardians.
Yeah, so it's kind of odd that while you're going through your transition, I had already been starting to process mine. For those of you who may have seen previous podcast with Brother's Keeper, In 2009, I was shot in the line of duty. And it started a huge life-changing event, more than I've ever expected. In every way, shape, or form, down to the minute details of my life, of how my day set up, everything. And so there I was. At first, you have the publicity coming. You have the sheriffs there. Everybody's there saying you're a hero. They're like, hey, and honestly, dance, monkey dance. And as long as you're dancing, you're okay. Inside, you're falling apart. And then when I finally said, hey, I can't keep doing this. This is starting to affect me. Everything disappears. And it gets quiet. And that's the thing I refer to as the quiet. And I was sitting there. I realized I'm losing my career. I'm going through a divorce. My father's dying. I can't take care of my children. Everything that I thought I had was gone. And the people I relied on, again, your backup, your partners, the people there, they're not there. It's not that they don't want to be, but you're out of sight, out of mind. They have to maintain, they have to be aware where they need to be. And at the time, I didn't understand that at all. And so here I am alone, spiraling, and I kept asking God, again, this is where I think it's very important to bring in that faith base. Not that I want to beat people over the head, but this is my experience.
Right.
This is your experience. This is Brian's experience. This is where it comes from the heart. How did we get here, right?
Right.
How did we get onto this target? How are we here today? So I kept asking God, why is this happening? Why am I going through this? And he kept telling me in my head, my voice was, I gave this to you, and I was mad. I was angry at God. I said, what do you mean you gave this to me? And I remember cussing and yelling as if I'm praying, but cussing and yelling, basically saying, F you, God. And I mean, I'm using the Lord's name in vain and all that other stuff because I'm so pissed and so lost. And I started having the night terrors where I was screaming in the middle of the night, not knowing where I was. Sometimes I'd sleep. Sometimes I couldn't sleep. They're messing with your medications, doing all these things, and you're falling apart. And like, how am I supposed to keep this together? And I kept asking God, why? And then calls started coming in. And people were texting me, hey, George, I got hurt. Can you help me? And I was pissed. I was like, dude, you're calling me for help? Where have you been when I needed it? You didn't call to check on me anymore. And at first I was mad. And I said, God, why is this happening? And he says, I gave this to you, George. I gave this to you. I'm like, what the does that mean? And he's like, and finally he answered, I gave this to you because I gave you the faith to take one more step, to crawl, to roll out of bed and move, to take a breath. It doesn't matter. You have enough faith, that faith the size of a mustard seed, to take it one more minute. You're not going to quit. And these people need to know that. So, like you, I had to get vulnerable. I had to be completely naked. Yes, I wanted to start my pistol. Yes, I wanted to take my life. Yes, I booked myself into an institution to get help. Yes, I did whatever I could because I knew I could not fail. There was too much at stake. Not just for me, because that, to be honest, seemed like the easy point. It really did. So there I was, realizing, I always heard people say this, well, you don't know till you hit the bottom. I said, it's not till you realize there is no bottom. Yeah, you can keep going forever.
I agree with that.
And it's like, what do you need? So then, again, and I'm going to bring up your point, that need to serve, that servant leadership, to say, all right, dude, you got hurt. This is what I experienced. This is what you might expect. These are things that these people are. And sure as shit, they're like, George, that's exactly what happened. That's how they treated me. That's how they did this. What did you do to get out? Okay, this is what you do. This is how I accomplished this. This is how I did. I had to forge and break this ice myself and find right people to trust, a correct therapist, the right attorney, those type of things to get through the process. And the more people I helped and the more I talked about my story, the more I was able even to help myself. And when I heard people say thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
So now my pain has a purpose. It's not just because. And I couldn't have done it if God didn't give me that fortitude to help me take that one more, like literally there were days all I could do is breathe, And so that's where I came up with my concept too of Life After the Badge. And Life After the Badge is a group that's a camaraderie based. It's a little different than some of the other ones, which are therapy-based. Mine was camaraderie-based because I really missed that. I missed hanging out with the guys. So it started with 3. We just recently hit 210 on the group.
Bam.
And it's taken several years, but when I call people now, they're not asking, why are you calling? They're like, oh, I heard about this.
Yeah. And then I remember, I remember seeing, I knew we were friends on Facebook, and I remember just seeing this guy. He's walking and he's telling us this story, and I'm like, I didn't know any of this stuff had occurred, none of it. So I immediately didn't even reach out as a collaborator. I reached out as friend, dude, and I said, bro, I'm sorry, I had no idea, man. What happened? And we start talking, and it turns out we're both going down this same path and did not even know it. I mean, we were speaking the same language, and I was like, bro, we need to get together and talk about some of this stuff, and we did. And he actually came on Brothers Keeper twice. Remember the first one? We lost the whole show. The whole thing was gone.
Wow.
But he came back again and repeated the story, and that was the first time we really got an audience. And I remember there was a woman listening. She was liberal, big time. She sent me a message after his interview, Oz's interview, and she said, that is the first time I ever seen a cop as a human being. And I was like, wow, because his story is powerful, man. It was. I mean, a lot of us teared up during it. We did. Not me so much, but most everybody else, right? So how did Brian get here?
So, a couple years ago, I had to have my right hip replaced. And it was just wear and tear on my right hip from spending most of my career sitting on the right hip in a patrol car. And a hip replacement is a career ender if you are like a worker bee, if you're someone who is just the ground level law enforcement, if you're not a sergeant and above where you can spend half your shift sitting at a desk or, walking around and that sort of thing, the department will basically say that you're not usable. And that's kind of what happened with me. I had my right hip replaced, and they said, you can no longer meet the standards to work as a deputy sheriff. And so I started the lengthy process of going through a medical retirement. And so through this whole thing, I realized that, obviously my career was over, and I had become this person from, being in law enforcement for 21 years. Over time, I became this person, right? Because I was Brian Lehman before the job, graphic artist, hot rod guy, whatever, really outgoing, and then you get into law enforcement and you get reprogrammed a little bit in the academy, but more importantly is when you go to your agency and you go through that training program, that's when the real change begins to happen, right? The way you think, the way you view the world, the way you can't trust people, the way you have to put your back to the wall all the time, or even something as simple as writing reports. You have to find a dark corner and put your back into it to protect yourself and to see danger coming, right? Be nice to everybody, but have a plan to kill everyone. And you change into something else. And the only way I can describe it is like the Venom suit, the superhero villain Venom. It's a symbiotic suit that takes over your body and your mind. And when that's gone, or you realize your career is over, we all start this identity crisis.
And I gotta say about where we worked, I will give them that prop is they had an excellent training program. I mean, to get through that, you had to be squared away. And I remember it was a 1/3 failure rate.
So when we got through it, I mean, I know we were all proud to do that, but it does change you. You become a different person, and that's a good analogy of that. But you're a tough, squared away person who's got a brain and can think, but you can't turn it off sometimes. You know, it becomes your whole life changes. I agree with that, man. But I was proud to be a deputy. I remember that because, and I was proud to walk next to. If somebody made that program, you know, you're next to somebody squared away. You know, when it was called FTO at least.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's another thing too. I'm going to throw out there. Remember, we all started around the same time. Brian and I went to academy together. My first job as a deputy, I walk in and I see this beautiful man right here who I'm going to kick in the ass because he's too good looking. And I'm short on top of that. You know? But I'm looking at two just awesome guys right here, but I counted last, and I tried to stop. We buried 15 friends over that time. 15 people we were standing side by side with. At least that's my number. There's a couple of, I know it's probably different for you guys, but that we had in common. I know there was at least a dozen that we all knew. And that's the very first one when we started was we were in FTO together when we lost Phelps. Shit got real. And I don't know how else to say that. I don't want to curse, but it got real when you start losing friends. And I can't remember, the first 2 years, we buried 3 of them. And that takes its toll, right? And then so it does. It's not only the program that changes you, and the training and being safe, because we were safe and we were squared away, but it's watching your friends go into the ground that also changes you, because you take things a lot more serious than anybody else, right? I know how we would react in a situation where most people think it's like a movie and it could end nicely. Mm-hmm. Like, you have no idea what you just did. But I don't want to interrupt, but I really wanted to give you props too, because to get through that was tough, dude. You kind of bruised over. That was a tough program, and add to the fact that we started burying friends as we're doing that, and you still made it through, right? So it's not something you want to be proud of, but it's a badge you're wearing anyway. But it's a scarred one, but it's earned, no matter what. Like the scars. I remember telling George this. The real story is not the outside of that badge, man. That thing stays shiny. You can keep shining it. You turn that thing in. The stories are behind that thing, because that's you. And I just want to make sure you're doing yours justice. But yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So going through this process and identity crisis and stuff, what added to it was overwhelming sense of loss, right? People who you thought were your friends and in your corner and who were your friends at work, they really were just friendly acquaintances, because once you're gone, nobody calls, nobody checks on you, and you just feel like you're alone, right? And then you're saddled with unhealthy coping skills, and we're so used to being calm and functioning in a chaotic environment, and then when the chaos is gone and you're home alone and you're sitting there and you can't get a job and you're just going, what is going on? And then you realize that you can't function in a calm environment. You have to function in chaos. So you start creating chaos, right? You start being a jerk to your significant other, or you start drinking, or you start taking drugs, or you start cheating on your spouse, or whatever. You start racing cars, right? So we can get back to running 100 miles an hour. So through this, I had an identity crisis, and but at the same time, like John said, I wanted to serve, right? So the issues that I started seeing, the abandonment, the identity crisis, I wanted to talk about. Then I called them the unspeakables. They're the unspeakable topics that none of us talked about in our career. At least I didn't. And I stayed away from those things. If somebody even started to talk about it, I was like, you got leprosy? I got to go write a report. after a period of time, I connected with Oz, which was very helpful, getting me through a tough time. And then ultimately, John Gamez here gave me a call, and we reconnected. And, having our friendship rekindled, after so many years has been very beneficial. And so not only that, but it brought me into the Circle of Guardians, which was Brother's Keeper before. And so it's been very therapeutic, and it's nice to be a part of a tribe, because I was tribeless, and I think the three of us were tribeless for a period of time, and that was the real struggle, as we weren't around like-minded people to help each other out and to lean on each other, or just to check on each other. Hey, how you doing today?
And I think a lot of times, because I was asked why the concept I came with the camaraderie and why I started reaching out, because I started finding out it didn't matter if you went out on an injury, you went out on time, however you left the department, people just disappeared, right? Because they were focused on themselves and what they had to. And I said, look, when you were on scene and you called for backup, was it the department that came, or was it me?
Right.
It was us.
It's you, yeah.
I'm the one who busted my ass to get there. I'm the one that drove 125 if I had to get there. I'm the one blowing through the lights when I probably shouldn't, because you needed me. And I said, why do we expect now a mechanism? Because that's what the department is. And we have to realize it has to function that way. It has to be not personalized and not give a shit. It has to plug the numbers in, because the bodies still have to show up on shift. I get that. It's got to keep functioning. But at the time, I couldn't recognize that till I got healthier, till I exposed and talked to enough people. And I was like, okay, so why am I expecting them to come? I'm going to come. You still need me. It doesn't matter whether I'm injured or not. You still need me. I still need you. I'm going to come no matter what. Because when we got that call, it didn't matter what would happen. If you had got shot, I know Brian's going to come in there with his left arm and beat the shit out of some people, right? It didn't matter. I'm going to get there. I'm going to handle business as long as there's still fight left in me. Well, there's enough fight left in this guy and enough left fight in you guys that I'll fight for you, alongside you, with you, whatever it takes. I want you to know I'm going to be there. So I started making those calls, and they were very hard. And each person having to justify why I was calling them. And then when they turned me down, to turn around and say, no, I'm still here. No, I'm still here. So that's when I came up with that term. I said, hey, tap up. At least text me, tap up. When we went through a building, it was like, you didn't need to hear from me. All you need to do, you do that. That's it. And you know, okay, we're going and he's got my back. How can we trust people then? But then now here we are, because we lost our identity. I'm still the same dude. You're still the same. You're still the same guy. Yeah, we're all bruised and scarred up. But guess what? Again, it wasn't the department that did it. It was us. So let's stop waiting for them or somebody else to come save the day. Let's take back the control. Let's take back the power that we have and be there for each other. And that's why I started the Life After Badge, to get people out, start talking again, start saying this. The next level would be the therapy level. That's the Code 9 project, which found me, and then it spread it so that we're doing national stuff, where we're doing the therapy base. So when it's not just, hey, I need to tap up, but I need somebody to really fucking talk to.
Yeah.
And I need that help. I need to be able to say, Brian, I love you enough that you need to go in and get help. I love you enough to, John, to be able to do this. And there's been times I've needed to hear that. And I know that you guys have been there for me when I needed to hear, hey, George, yeah, let's do something serious. Let's one-on-one, let's whatever. Because no matter what, we got to have each other. Again, too often, everybody, same thing. I said, the COPS program, the companion officer program is rusted shut.